plug my computer into the camera so you can see what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to do that. The projector. So while we make all these connections happen, some of you know that before I got into the ministry, I was a professor of systems thinking. And we're on HDM2, right? Nope. HDMI 1. Yeah, but I'm going to be on 1. Here we go. Yes, I love it. I love it when the system works. Doesn't everyone? So that's my wallpaper, and someone asked, it is now on our new website that you will be seeing this week. Right. All right. How's that work? Good. I'm glad. And of course, no. I love Windows 11, don't you? Yeah, not. Hi. What an amazing time this is for all of us, individually and collectively, and how wonderful that we do have this community, yes? Yes. So, one of the things that we need to understand is no matter how enlightened we are, life's going to have its ups and downs. I like to say that life is a sine wave. You can count on, as it's beginning to get absolutely wonderful, it starts to turn into something else. And what I work on and what I think we do as a community is to buffer that so it's not this long, slow, I finally there, boom. Long, slow, I finally got there, boom. To where it's, isn't that nice? I get to relax. I get to create. I get to enjoy. I get to create. That's our goal, all right? But it will be ups and downs. It must be. It is the nature of living systems to do that. And sometimes it looks more like this. Now, this actually is the computer model of a bunch of chaotic data points. Isn't that marvelous? Yeah. And then this is a computer model of a quantum chaotic system. And some of you will recognize the fractals, right? Isn't that wonderful? So there is order in chaos, and that's a really important thing to be aware of. And that order is usually around a point, a seed, a potential. And the way that happens in human systems and living systems is something called panarchy. And panarchy is probably the most recent introduction to the structure of systems thinking. It was developed by an ecologist, C.S. Holling. He was a forest ecologist, and he saw that you have a seed, and the seed grows into this kind of wiggly little thing, right? And then with wind and critters and so on, it gets more and more structured, and it drops more seeds, and then there is more structure, and more, and there gets to be a mature ecosystem. And all along, there's storms and fires and all kinds of things, and it keeps bouncing back and bouncing back. But at one point, at some point, either the tree itself or the forest overall is so structured and so inflexible in the structure that the next little thing comes along and it all falls apart. So the little things are coming along all the time as this thing is growing. There's that initial development, and then we get involved with others, right? And then there's the forming of the policies and the procedures and the organizational chart and all that stuff. It happens in all living systems, organizations, individuals, whatever. And then there's that mature, we can't move. We can just do what we've been doing, right? And that's one of the things I've loved about this organization. It hasn't got there. You continue to basically hang out in that middle range. It's great. But when that one little event happens, it might be a campfire, it might be a lightning strike, it might be a particular fungus, whatever. It comes in and the whole system collapses. Okay, we call that catastrophe. And in catastrophe, out of catastrophe, or in the middle of it, we enter that chaotic state. And that's that same computer model played with in that space. Now, the chaos will last just as long as we hang on to the old structure. That's the key here. Think about what's going on in the world today. Hanging on to the old structure, right? And what is also always true is there is that seed, that potential that is already there. Now, in a woman, we're born with all our eggs already in place, right? Yeah, isn't that fascinating? The seed is already there. That's normal in living systems. The potential is already there. So how do we get through the chaos? We focus on the seed. All right? So going forward with this is life. We go through that, and then we go through that, and every time we come up at a little higher level. We have a few less things we have to deal with. We're closer and closer to the core of our being. That's cute. I haven't thought about that. Being, the core of our being, that essence that is the core essence of all that is. And always the seed emerges. Now, it may take a long, difficult time if we continue to focus on the past. Like if I keep hanging on to the seeds and I never plant them, right? I'm hanging on to the past. I'm not allowing the future to happen, right? And, if the butterfly said, the caterpillar says, I don't want to weave that chrysalis, right? And then it's in the chrysalis, it's in what my daughter calls butterfly soup. While the DNA, triggers different aspects of the genes. And it really is. It's just, it's a bunch of jelly, protein plasma, if you've ever cut open a cocoon, right? And then it says, oh, no, I don't ever want to do this. And I'm reminded of the twins in the womb. And one of them asks the other, do you think there's life after womb? And the other one says, nah. I mean, this is perfect. We have everything we need. Why would there be? Right? So that whole thing, we try to stuck to the extent we hang on to it, right? And even in childbirth, to the extent that we try to hang on to it instead of allow and release and let go. So butterfly would never have happened if that had happened along the way. So if we focus on that stage, that central, that transformational stage, where everything that has been is just falling apart, that doesn't sound familiar. And everything that we know is still hidden, might possibly emerge, right? Then what often happens individually is we get these triggering events. Everything seems to be going along fine. Maybe we've got a little more on the plate than we should probably comfortably handle. A few of us have been doing that lately. And then someone says something or does something, and suddenly we're back in an old pain or an old anger or an old emotional state. There was a TV show, Ally McBeal, and every now and then everyone at the conference table would be 5 or 6 or 7 years old, right? I thought that was excellent use of the director's imagination. All right? And then we all want to act from that pain, from that emotional state. That's normal. We don't have to, though. That's the cool thing. Because there is always a seed in that moment. How many of us have lost a job, been all upset, and then found we got a whole new wonderful career out of it, right? Yep. How many of us had a relationship completely fall apart, and then we realized, oh, this is who I really am. Yeah? Right? And then the catastrophic illness or accident that led to a whole new way of life. I'm an example of that. All right? And what is beginning to happen now is a whole new culture is being born in this time of chaos. Yes. So, Sarah Brana, that's not Brethnak, that's Brana. She's Irish. Expect to have hope rekindled. Expect your prayers, your requests, your wishes and dreams to be answered in wondrous ways. The dry seasons in life do not last. Spring will come again. And spring for us is that time when bud turns and seeds turn and emerge, right? Yes. So, what's happening in the world? Yeah, lots. Right. All of that is happening in the world, right? And that feels really chaotic. And it is. We are in that stage. We have had, as a global culture, as what I call empire culture, as Western industrial civilization that is now a global culture, we have had the event, the critical event that led to the series of catastrophes that have us now in chaos. Now, individual organizations and individuals are not all experiencing that chaos. And generally, it's because they have focused on the seed rather than on the past, right? You can kind of see that as you work with organizations and people. And so all of these changes are also happening to us individually. Almost everyone here is in a relatively new home, in a relatively new community, not in a relatively different lifestyle and life work pattern. I know some of you have been doing it for about 10 years, but most of you did a lot of other things before the last 10 or 15 years. So we're in that same point of something, we're ready to be triggered, frankly. And the media is encouraging us to be triggered. And in fact, it's doing everything it can to trigger us, to keep us in fear and upset, to keep us in that emotional state, right? Because that way we will buy things thinking that that will make us feel better. That's what we've been trained in this culture. And our children and grandchildren are totally bought into it. They have no other tools in far too many cases. A lot of chaos, a lot of issues, a lot of potentially triggering events, day after day, moment after moment. And that's when it starts to feel totally overwhelming. Yeah. That's when it, when we focus on that, it's really no fun. But that's why I love that image you chose, the gallant ship on the rough sea. Because those waves look pretty chaotic. Anyone do any river rafting? Yeah? Yeah, it looks pretty chaotic, but you want to keep your eye focused on the path through the chaos, right? And that's what we're talking about here. Now, what is happening worldwide is in this chaos, that green line is the seed of something emerging. Some of you have heard this from me and talked to many times. There is a new culture emerging in this. And it is emerging because people have been focusing on the seed for the potential. That green line starts about 1965. The Beatles, they did it. Along with Rachel Carson. Yeah. The National Environmental Protection Act was beginning to be explored, and that time was finally put into place in '69. All these things began to emerge, and the Unitarian and the Universalist Church merged in '65. Isn't that interesting? And formed a set of principles, right? And those principles are the circles around the edge, and then in '85 they added the one in the middle. I'll give you the specifics later. But what is not often spoken is an underlying assumption in the word Unitarian and the word Universalist. Okay, Unitarian is as opposed to Trinitarian. It's talking about divinity. It's talking about the essence of the creative source of all that is. And it's saying, we don't honor three aspects, we say it's all one. The creative source of all that is, that sustains all that is. We don't know what it is. We won't try to define it. We may not even try to name it. But we acknowledge there is only one. And within that one is one people, all of whom universally partake in all of the blessings and offerings that creative source is constantly generating for all beings in all dimensions of consciousness, whether it's physical and material or spiritual or something we don't even know and have no name for, right? This side of the veil or the other. That's the seed principle, the seed set of seed principles for this whole new culture. Isn't that cool? I love it that the UUs named what was emerging. And even though many, many people are participating in this that never heard of Unitarian Universalists, these are the principles they're applying. If you look at the United Nations sustainability goals, they conform to this pattern. If you look at a traditional culture, a river gardening culture, a tribal culture, a clan culture, these are how they live. Right? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So that culture that was in place thousands of years ago, that bottom line there of tribal villages, right, continues to be in place and has held, as we say the Native Americans have held this land in stewardship. They have held these principles in stewardship. And the Unitarian Universalists have brought them into Western industrial colonial culture. Yeah? Yeah. So this new thing that is emerging since about 1965 is based on these ideas. And they are the seeds in the chaos of today. So when I am in a situation where I'm being confronted or triggered by chaos, by what's happening in the world today, I need to look at those principles. I fall back on those principles. They are my boat. They are my compass in this culture, in this time. How do I do that? The first thing is to be aware I'm triggered. I'm triggered either into overwhelm or upset, one or the other. Right? And sometimes they're both. To stop. Whatever thinking, feeling, acting I am doing, stop and breathe. And my daughter, who wrote Butterfly Soup, is working on a new book based on her website that talks about this process. How do you stop and breathe? And then go into asking a question. Now, when I've talked to you in the past about fear, I say the same thing. Ask a question. Get out of the amygdala into the cortex. Right? Ask a question. So some of the questions work as, what is really happening here? What is true? The Byron Katie question, right? Is this that I'm getting so upset about really a life-threatening situation? I remember my cousin, who was married for many, many, many years to this wonderful man, who I now look back on as sort of a saint. She said, am I going to yell at him because the milk got spilled? Is that the life-threatening situation, right? Those kinds of things. All right, but the fundamental question is, what's really important to me in the long run? The long run. Everyone here on this planet and in this room right now can look forward to, 95, 105, and one guy is aiming for 120, right? Years of age. That's a long run. Woo! How do I want to be living? What do I want to be experiencing? What is important to me for that long run? Now, my personal, me, Ruth, not imposing it on anyone, much less the culture, is what's important to me is that I be authentically expressing spirit as me with the greatest wisdom and love I can. That's what's important to me in the long run. Well, that's going to get me through a whole lot of chaos, right? That's the key question. What's really important to me? There's where your seed principle lies. there's where your ship gets you through these storms. So as we look at the principles of Unitarian Universalism, and as far as I know, we're still conversing about the eighth principle. It hasn't been established yet? Yeah? Okay. Because for me, that's a corollary. But that's another story. We need to have these awarenesses as we're looking at whatever is going on in the world. As someone presents themselves to us out of that chaos, as a story is told to us on the news or in life, these principles, are we honoring the inherent worth and dignity of these people involved? Are we accepting one another? Do we have that justice and equity and compassion in our actions and thinking? Are we recognizing that everybody is free to find their own truth and meaning? Everybody. And it isn't necessarily mine. Yeah? That is so interesting, and we're all, most of us, not everyone in the room, but many of us have adult offspring, and recognizing they're on their own path. So for me, my principle that I hold on to when it appears to be pretty chaotic around my adult offspring, they are moving toward their fulfillment in their own way, and I'm holding that they are happy and healthy. That's my principle. Right? Yes. All right. And then the right of conscience and the use of democratic process. It's so easy in chaos to move into that authoritarian, I know how to fix it, I'll just do it. Or, well, we don't need to take the time to go out and ask. We need to just do it. Those are so easy to fall into. In the emerging culture, there is no room not to involve everyone involved in the decision. If they're involved in the consequences, they get involved in the decision. This is the council fire of tribal cultures, right? This is the interesting, the point of a Congress, oh well. And I've known a number of people over the years who have actually developed technology where people can sit at home and participate in the city council meeting and have their thoughts recorded and their votes included and things like that. The technology has existed since 1978. Isn't that interesting? But anyway, as we work with our life in the face of the chaos that the culture is currently going through, we recognize that these principles and our own personal guideline, our own personal what's really important to me, are the means. They are the compass by which we can find our way. And I know in part I'm preaching to the choir, but I just thought I'd bring it up again because the world around us keeps trying to sink us in those stormy seas, and they don't have to be. They don't have to be stormy. They won't be anymore once we get into that next phase of the seed developing into the new culture. Thank you all very much. We have a meditation. So we're going to turn off the light. Could someone back there turn off the light? Thank you, Lydia. I don't know if you know, but Lydia stands in the back signing our songs. Yeah, if you ever feel like you need someone to be in front signing the songs, ask her. All right, so we're going to take a nice, long, slow, deep breath. And we're going to feel how we are totally supported in this group. Totally sustained by this planet, this chair, this room, and the air, and everything in it. Sustaining this body, sustaining our souls, And as we take another long, slow, deep breath, we can feel how the body and the soul, the being that we are, is moving steadily through a world that is going through a major transformative process. And sometimes we can feel how we are shifting direction a little bit one way or another, but we are focused. We know it's like we have a soul contract to be who we truly are, to be the love and the light and the wisdom that is that underlying field of being that we call our source, that some of us feel as a presence. We are that, and we know that. And we are feeling pulled into a new way of living, pulled by our very own principles, pulled by the seed that we are carrying into a way of living that is totally in alignment with who we truly are. So we breathe, and we accept that this is true. And we breathe again and allow this way of being to be our way. Each of us. And we realize we can just relax into it. That who and what we are is drawing us always into greater love, greater life, more joy and comfort, more ease and beauty. As we breathe. And as we become aware again of being present in this room at this time, we're aware we're each taking one more step. And if you'd like to join, we can sing together. Number 168. One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We will take one more step. And the second verse. One more word, we will say one more word, till your word is heard by everyone. We say one more word. Okay, 3. More prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. Say one more prayer. Say one more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. Thank you so much, Christine. That was her suggestion. Yes.